Do a quick recap and then I'll get into more
Yeah,
synchronicity if you don't
yeah.
mind. So ARGH, accept, recognize growth, and there's a beautiful practice to allow me to be more open to new synchronicities in my life. So you're essentially teaching a lot of these type of, I would say, spiritual type principles as a way to help people to be more open and then guide them towards more synchronicity. So be more open to synchronicities. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you call them spiritual because all I've really talked about is emotional intelligence. And I do think of it as spiritual. But even if you don't think of it as spiritual, you can recognize the importance of emotional intelligence, of understanding what you feel every day and how that impacts what you do. And if you can have more awareness and control over what you feel, you can have more awareness and control over what you do. And that leads to more success in various ways.
Actually, so for you, what is the distinction of the two, and then what may be the destination?
To me, they're part of the same thing, and I think a lot of people stick with spiritual practice as like looking outside themselves for meaning or for an idea of God. And the big breakthrough in my life has been recognizing that my own emotional blind spots are the things that my spiritual practice is leading towards. My meditations are leading me to be more aware of my emotional blind spots, my places where I'm weak and wounded and hurt and reactive. And so I think that they're tied together. And if we stay in the spiritual, which might be more of a heady thing, like how do I make sense of my life in a spiritual way, then we don't dive into what we're feeling, then I think we're bypassing the actual growth. The growth is both about changing the way we think and changing the way we feel by removing certain patterns that aren't serving us. I think one of the really beneficial things about having a view on these bigger questions, what is the universe? Why are we here? What is space and time? Because if we take these things for granted, yeah, they just exist. Then it feels like we're just stuck in our small little life, and our problems seem really big and intractable, and we find ourselves fighting for survival. But if you start to look at what the cosmos really is and ask some of these bigger questions, like how is it that we can constantly be expanding our sense of our estimate of how many stars there are in the galaxy and how many galaxies there are in the cosmos, and start to realize that there's more galaxies in the cosmos than we can count. And what does that even mean? And actually, one of the amazing things about the work I'm doing in my second book is understanding this realm of description that we call the frequency domain, where there's no time and space whatsoever. If you look at a music file, you have an audio file with music. In regular time, you hear music. In the frequency domain, there's no time. You just see the frequencies all lined up in a pattern. So there's a way of describing the world without space and time. This is a very deep subject, and it should inspire a sense of awe and wonder that it breaks us out of our current worldview, whatever that is, that might be constricted. And so I think a sense of awe and wonder at the cosmos is really useful for getting us out of our insecurities and out of the things that are limiting us from taking a risk in our life and saying, oh, I don't have to fight for my survival. And this is one thing that synchronicity and awareness of this process can do. If you trust that synchronicities will occur in your life, when you have an opportunity to go for something, you'll say, instead of that'll never work, you'll say, okay, if I take the first steps and do the preparation, the next step will become evident. If I know how to look for it, how to moderate my own inner reactions and emotions and look for what's the next step, I'll see it. And so it breeds a sense of faith or trust that's based on really just a process of events that happen in the world physically.